Okay, so just a quick recap about things yesterday. So it was mostly around JSON and ARM template. We said it is JSON, nothing but a JavaScript object notation. So instead of writing your code in PowerShell, we said that you can go ahead and do it in a declarative syntaxing, which doesn't require you to do a lot of logic, which doesn't require you to write a lot of things out there, and it simply get started with simple like something like this. So let me go ahead put this. I'll say Control N on my keyboard. I'll say the language becoming Azure Resource Manager template. Again, for this particular thing to load, you have to have an extension called ARM already installed. So just click on ARM and go for the first, let's say, extension called Azure Resource Manager Template Tools by a provider called Microsoft. And once this is installed, and once you select the language as ARM out here, in the bottom right hand of your screen, it will tell you that you know what you are now writing something called as an Azure Resource Manager template right now. You can get started. And in here, if you want to start writing a template, I would say ARM, and then the very first suggestion that I get, exclamation, which will load a blank template for me. This is now a blank file, a blank template that I can load out there. And after that, I'll just remove the functions part. We don't need the functions as of now. And if I go into the resources, and again, this is an array of resources that you can declare. It's an array, which means that just not one resource. You can create multiple resources, like let's say 10 different storage accounts, or one storage, one virtual machine, or one storage, or web application, a couple of things out here as such. So let's go inside this block. And once I'm inside this block, just give it like a minute or so time. It has to load the templates out here. And what I'm going to do is that I'm now again going to create a storage with some name, a storage account with some name out here, and try doing a deployment for it. I'll try, let's say, going ahead and deploying this out. And also, before I go there, uh, just go with ARM template documentation. Okay, just say ARM template documentation. You have a good amount of documentation for an ARM template on how to get started and all that stuff. And let's go there. And also, there is in the left hand corner, there's something called template references. Just click on this one. You will have reference templates out here. For example, let's say you are looking to create a storage account. So let's scroll down all the way to S and look at storage. And here you have something called storage accounts as such. Once you click on this, this is going to give you how do you or what is the format that you need to write. Now, this is all the accepted parameters that you can pass with a storage account. This is the entire JSON object that is allowed for you to go ahead and let's say, or this is all the properties that you can go ahead and start using when you create a storage account out here. Just scroll down all the way to the bottom, or just come all the way to the top, and in the right hand side corner you have something called quick start templates. You can click on this, and this will tell you create a standard storage account. So if you don't know about a template, just click on this one, go to click on standard storage account out here, and here you will have something called the entire template on how they are writing it and what they're writing it and how it's written, etc. So you can get an example for this one. Better if you don't even know how to, let's say, look at the documentation. You all know how to create a storage account using the Azure portal. That's something that you can know. Just go to the Azure portal. Let's say that I have a storage account right now, some random storage account that I created. So you want to, let's say, create a template out of it. Click on this one on the storage account. Scroll down all the way to the bottom, and in here there is something called export template. Click on this option, and this is supported in each and every resource. Microsoft itself is going to go ahead and create an ARM template for you and give it. So you can take this ARM template, automate it according to your choice, and redeploy this back again. So a couple of options out here. I would say start with the documentation, understand how the documentation is really looking at, because this keeps changing a lot. And when you are working in a real-time environment, right, you might have to, let's say, come here, look at the documentation, understand what the documentation is telling you, and then go ahead and, let's say, create your own storages as such. Or the other way, go to a storage or go to any kind of a resource, just type in export template. Here you have a template out here that you can create, or the template that gets created for you. Or if you don't have a storage account, you just want to create, you're just trying to create something, just say create, and you can use some resource group out here, say demo stores abc000 something like this. I am just going all the way to the review option, and this will just, I mean, after you fill out all these things, it will run all the options out here. And before you create it, you also have something called download template for automation. If you click on this one too, you will get the entire template as such. You are going to get the entire ARM template out here as such. So multiple ways in order to, let's say, go ahead and get this particular template. Yes, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here?
In resource array, we can add also storage account and container.
I'm sorry, in the storage account and container, yes. You can add storage account and container also. We'll also see that. Okay. In the portal, can we demarcate the storage account created by a template and the storage account created by a portal? Will there be any identification that the storage account is created using a template, an ARM template? Again, a little difficult to, let's say, demarcate that. But one of the ways that you can really look at is go to a resource group and look at a deployment section in the resource group. There is something called deployment section on the resource group, and ARM templates by default go deployed in this particular resource group as such. When you see a deployment, you can click on the deployment, understand what is the deployment, is it deploying something? If it is, then yes, you are, let's say, using an ARM template. If you're creating directly via the portal, it gets logged in the, let's say, in the activity log of that particular resource group out here. So if you are creating the storage account directly from the portal, you will be able to see it here. Here, for example, I have updated the resource group 25 minutes ago, which means that I've added a resource inside it. But if I deployed the ARM template, it would kind of tell me here, telling that, okay, fine, the ARM template got deployed. We'll see that. We'll check that out. But yes, demarcation is possible, but the line is thinner. We'll also see how the demarcation is possible while you do Azure DevOps and all that stuff. Yes, any more questions here, guys, before we move forward? So again, I'm just coming here. I said control in new language. I said ARM, and then I got this particular blank JSON. I remove the functions out here. Come down to the resources, and I want to now start creating a storage account from my template. So I'll say ARM hyphen storage. I'll get the entire blank JSON body for creating a storage account. And in here, let me go ahead and change a couple of properties, like for example, the name. I'll say this is demo store ABC000 USC2, something like this, so that the name is unique. And the type here is Microsoft.storage / storage accounts. This is called as a resource identifier. This is the body, or this is the property what Microsoft uses in order to understand what kind of a resource do you want to really create. Is it a storage account, or is it a container? Is it something else? And after that, you have something called as the API version. Again, I'm not changing the API version. I'm using the default API version that I do have. Tags, I can optionally remove this out. So I can just select the entire tag block and remove this out completely. And then the location, I'll say remove this out, and I'll say this is East US2. I'll say storage V2. And the SKU here, I want to create the storage account in a standard LRS. So I'll remove this, and I'll say control plus space. This will now load what are all the SKUs that are available out there. I'll say standard LRS. I'll say the tier here is standard. So I put all my properties in, and this is all good, all the properties in. I'll save this file and I'll save this as, let's say, storage template dot json file. It's a dot json file that I need to store this in as. I'll just save, and I now have saved this particular file. I can go into the portal. I'll say deploy a custom template, and I'll say build your own template out here. I'll say load the file, and let me go back into my templates. So storage template, I'll open this out. I now have entire template that is loaded. I'll save. I'll say create new. I'll say ARM storage. This is the RG that I'm creating, the resource group that I'm creating out here. I'll say OK. And in here, I'll just go ahead, scroll down, say ECS2, review, and create this out here. So I'm now creating a deployment on top of a resource group. And in this particular deployment, I'm sending the entire JSON body, or I'm sending the entire ARM template as a request, telling that again it failed. It's telling this is failed and all. Let's look at what failed. So it's pre-flight check failed. It's telling the storage account named something like ABC000 is already taken. So the name is not unique. So let's do one thing. Let's go back to our template, load the file once again, and let's see this. This is demo. I'll say this is ARM store BCD001 USC. So something like this, so that the name can be unique. I'll say save and just go ahead. Select that particular resource group that I had, which is ARM-storage-RG. I'll say review and create this out. Now, whenever Azure does this, it runs a validation, understands what you have and all that stuff, and says its validation is passed and all. I'll go ahead create this out. Now, if you want to understand whether something is being created from an ARM template or via an ARM template, let's wait for this to happen. Now, let's go ahead, and it's now submitting the deployment. Go to the resource group, click on the resource group out here. And if you want to understand whether the resource is being deployed via a PowerShell or an ARM, go to the deployment section of the resource group, under which if you are deploying a template, it gets tracked under this particular section called deployments, wherein it's telling, okay, fine, you know what, you have a template that is coming in. This is what is being deployed. Now, if you are deploying via template, it gets reflected here. If you are deploying via the portal or PowerShell, it gets reflected under the activity log. So someone had a question on how to differentiate. How am I deploying it? Is it via a PowerShell script or is it via an ARM template? So this is where you go and understand how do you, let's say, go ahead and differentiate things out. So let me wait for a second. And it's now telling that the resource has been created. I'll just go to the resource group. And now I have my template called demo ARM store ABCBCD001 that got created out here. So this is the name that I passed. I just copy this out and let me go into my template, update the name. So this is the name that I have. This is what I passed. I deploy the template, change the name, and good enough. I have a storage account that got created right now. Oh, deploy. Mhm. No, it's not like that. I mean, you're getting confused between development, QA, staging, and all these things. Those are environments. Let's not go there. Deploying means I'm just creating resources on the Azure portal for my client, for a client, so that he can go and store all his unstructured data out here. So again, the biggest advantage of this is that firstly, you're automating the deployment. Secondly, if the resource group were to get deleted, I have the entire configuration here. This is configuration management. You can just take this, redeploy it back. You'll get the same storage account. Data might be lost, yes, data will be lost, but you'll at least get the infrastructure. From an infrastructure perspective, you can just take this, redeploy it. You literally get the same properties again. You literally get the same property and all that stuff again. Yes, any questions still here? Hmm? Hmm. Right, right. Okay. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about resource iteration on if let's say you want to create 10 different storage accounts. We'll talk about how do you create that and all these things. Yes, to automate the things. Correct. Yes, anyone, any questions still here? All right, so let me do one thing. So I have my template. I created a storage account using this particular template called demo something ARM storage 001 USD store, etc. What if, my question is, what if I take the same template? I'll say build your own template out here, load the file, select the same file, no changes at all. There's no changes, same storage account that I'm again trying to create using this template on the same resource group. So I am trying to redeploy the same thing out there. So what do y'all think should happen and will happen? Mhm. Validation passed. Again, validation is just validating whether the syntax is right or wrong. So name is already existing. Yes, let's understand. Name already exists. So should it create one more with the same name? Let's think about this. I also need inputs from guys who are online. The question here is that I'm taking the same template, same properties, like the storage account name, the location, everything is the same. I am redeploying it onto the same resource group. The resource group already has the storage account. I created the storage account for the very first time. It already has the storage account right now. Now, if I create this again for the second time, mhm, okay, okay, hmm, okay, yes, anyone online, maybe overriding name already exists. Anyone online? Did you all get the question firstly? And can you all give me some inputs here? Anyone, guys? Anyone online, guys? Can you all hear me? Online? Anyone? Can anyone respond? Can you all hear me? Yes, no?
Yes, Kiran.
Okay. So, did everyone get the question that I'm asking on what is going to happen if I redeploy the same thing out here again? Okay, let's draw a parallel example. Let's open up a PowerShell. Let's say PowerShell IC, and let's create a storage account inside an existing resource group. And how do I create a storage account? What's the command to create a storage account? What do you all think is the command to go ahead and create
U
a simple storage?
U hyphen
New
AG
hyphen
storage account.
AZ storage account. That's right. New hyphen AZ storage account. And I'll say hyphen and I'll load all these things like the resource group name and etc. So I'll say resource group name and I'll take the same resource group called ARM storage and etc. Name. Let me take the same name that I have in my template, which is already created. Right? This is already something which is created. So let me go back and show you this. This is already something that I do have. The SKU name, I'll say it is standard LRS. Same properties again. Location, it is US2. Kind storage v2 access tier and all these things are okay. So I have given everything that is mandatory. This is new hyphen AZ storage account, resource group name, the name of the storage account, and etc. And let me go ahead execute this out. So I'm now executing a command. Now my question here is that what happens if I execute this command? What do you all think should happen if I execute this particular command? Anyone? What do you all think will happen if I execute this out?
Storage account
Will
is
it?
already exist and
Hmm. It already exists. So let's see what will happen. So I'm saying new hyphen easy storage account, and it threw an error telling what already taken, because I cannot create a storage account. This is a new hyphen easy storage account that you are trying to create. I cannot do this. I cannot really create this out. It's already taken. So I cannot really go ahead and do this, which means that I have to write an end-to-end scripting telling if the name is already taken, then don't create it, or if the name already exists, then don't create it. Only if the name doesn't stay on the portal, only then create it. By doing again my if else loops, I have to put an if, I have to put an else. In the if, I have to give a statement condition, all that stuff. Let's do the same thing via an ARM template. I'm taking the same ARM template again. You're not doing really anything different. Whatever that you're doing using the PowerShell, using a command called new hyphen az storage account, you're doing the same thing via an ARM declarative approach, taking the same template and trying to deploy this out. So I'll say edit your own template, load the file. I'll again take the same file, same name, everything is the same. I'll say save. I'll say next, review and create. What do you think should happen now? Should I get the same error like the one that I'm getting here? Because storage account name is already there. Hopefully, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll say create this out and check what's going to happen right now. So it's setting submitting deployment, initializing deployment, and it's trying to submit that particular deployment out there. And let's see. And let's wait for this to go ahead, and says your deployment is complete. Or does it mean that I'll have two storage accounts with the same name? Override it. Let's check that out. I only have one storage account still. Declarative syntaxing works in something called as an incremental approach. You don't have to declare an if else. If else is inside the template without saying it. It goes ahead. This is what it does. It follows something called as an incremental approach. What do I mean by incremental approach out here is this. Whenever you're creating a deployment using a template into a resource group, in my case, let's say it is ARM storage RG. What ARM does is that ARM is an intelligent machine. It goes in the background, it goes into your Azure portal and checks firstly whether the resource group with this name exists or not. It says yes, it does exist. Same resource group, sorry, same storage account exists. Is it in the location ECS2? Yes. Is it LRS? Yes. Is it standard? Yes. It will validate everything and I'll say, okay, fine. I don't have anything to deploy. I'll just validate things. I'll just check whether the properties that you are defining in your template and the properties in the Azure portal matches each other. If it matches, okay, I'll say, okay, fine. I'm good. Deployment is done. So it's setting deployment is done. Deployment is good. No changes. I'll move forward. What if, what if for the argument's sake, I will change the standard LRS to standard GRS. I'll save this out. Back into my Azure portal again. I'll say deploy a custom template. I'll say build your own template. Load the file. In this one, yes, I did. It did save. Again, if you want to know whether it's saved or not, if it's not saved, you'll have a white dot basically beside it, beside the file. If it's not saved, you'll have a white dot. If it is saved, you don't have the dot out there as such. So yes, that in that way, I'll tell that yes, it is saved. So again, I'm taking the same template, but this time around the property is different. I'll say save. Now, what do you think should happen? Let me open this, duplicate this out. Set review and create this out here. Okay, what do you think should happen right now? I have a storage account with the
storage
same
account
name.
has been created.
I'm sorry.
New storage account will be created,
New storage account will be created. Okay, why do you think new storage account will be created? Storage account already exists with the
because,
same name.
but we
But can
changed
I,
that standard LRS.
right? So can you create a new storage account with the same name if you already have the name taken? No, it should be
In
globally
ARM
unique.
we can, okay, in ARM we can try it.
Okay, in
Yes.
here we can write. That's right. That's true. But my question is that can you create the same storage account again? Because here we are discussing that the name should be unique. Name. Mhm. Okay. Other LRS, no. And the point here is that I've changed the property right now. It's not LRS anymore, but in the portal, it is LRS. Initially, I created an LRS. Now I'm telling I'll take the same template and recreate the deployment, changing a particular property called LRS to GRS. Can I change the redundancy from LRS to GRS after creating the storage account? Yes, I can. This is allowed. Let's see what ARM does right now. It tells the name
The
exists in the resource.
incremental, right? Okay.
It's an incremental, yes. Now it's telling,
Done.
does the name exists? Yes. Is it ECUS2? Yes. Is it LRS? No. This property is now been updated to what? GRS, and now ARM template will try to update this particular property to GRS out here. It is incremental in nature. So let's go back, go to resource, and it's still showing LRS. Refresh this out, GRS. It changed your redundancy from LRS to GRS out here as such. What if, again, I'm coming back, what if I change the location from East US to West US2? And again, if you see there's a white dot which is telling it is unsaved. Let's save this out. Control S, save this out. Now let's see. If you redeploy this out, what do you think will happen? Incremental.
Update.
But can I change the location of a resource after it's created? We cannot change. So let's see what it really, let's say now tells. Let's go back into our, let's say, template. Let's say deploy a custom template. Let's say build your own template. Load this file, storage template, open. I'll say save. No property change, nothing. I only change one particular, let's say, key value pair called location. I'll say, and again, this location is the resource group location. Okay, don't get confused with the location of the storage account. This is the resource group location. I'll say review and create. And let's try to create it. But even before I try to create it, Microsoft throws a validation error. Let's look at that. What is it telling right now? A resource with the same name cannot be created in WestUS. I cannot migrate it. I cannot really help you. It has to be global unique. Please give me a new name out here as such. So I'll simply tell an error telling that, you know what, your location, you're trying to change this particular parameter called location out here from ECS to SCS2. This cannot be possible. If this cannot be possible, Microsoft says, okay, fine. Let me try the other way around. I'll try to recreate this particular storage in WestUS. I'll treat this as a unique storage created in WestUS, but I cannot have the same storage name in a different region out there. It has to be globally unique. So I'm sorry, the template is failed. It won't even start a deployment. It will simply tell that, you know what, your template is failed. I cannot start a deployment for you as such. So even in ARM, you can only update the properties which can be changed, which can be updated. Update the properties which can be updated, like the redundancy. That's the only thing that you have right now in this entire, because you cannot update this particular property called storage account name. Again, if you give a new name, right, the template will still go ahead and create a new storage account. You'll just go ahead and create, let's say, a new storage out there as such. So this is the incremental nature of an ARM template, an incremental mode or an incremental nature of an ARM template out here as such. Yes, any questions till here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till here? Okay. We also did one more thing, right? We said that passing the storage account name like this is hard coding things out. I said the name is hard coded, the SKU is hard coded, the location all is hard coded, and we said that if a client wants to pass a name, then we give something called read hyphen host and telling what is the name of the storage account, right? And we said this is dollar storage account name is equal to read host, and I can simply take this dollar storage account name here, put it in place of the name, parameterizing it, so that each and every time the client can go ahead and create a new storage account he wants to, inducing or infusing something called as reusability. In my template, as of now, my template is not really reusable because every time you deploy the same name, the same location, everything will get the same created out here. So in order to introduce something called as reusability, you have something known as a parameters block, something called as a parameter block out here. Let's look at how can I use this parameter block for my advantage. I'll go inside the parameter, and once you are inside this block, just go ahead and type a quote in your keyboard. As when you type the double quotations in your keyboard, it says okay fine, you want to create a new parameter. I'll say yes, please go ahead, create a new parameter. It creates an entire parameter block for you, starting at line number 5, ending at let's say line number 10. This is the entire block, starting with this one. It's telling what is the name of the parameter. I'll say storage account name. This is like a read host statement right now. I'm telling the type of the parameter is a string. It's a string value, not an array. It's a string. I'll say in description, I'll say this is the name of the storage account which needs to be created. Again, this is optional in nature. This is something that I am, let's say, putting this in my template so that I understand what the parameter really expects out here. And I scroll down. Again, I am declaring a parameter here. I'm still hard coding the value. It's like using something like dollar storage account name. I want to pass this particular dollar storage account name to this name out here. I want to, let's say, use that particular dollar storage account name to the name here. So what I'll do is I'll remove this name. I'll remove this completely out. I'll say I don't want to pass a hard coded name. Rather, inside this block, I'll open up a square bracket. Now, what is square bracket in JSON? What is square brackets in JSON? What did we discuss about square brackets yesterday?
Array to
Array.
declare.
It's an array.
Exactly. Exactly. Array. So resources is an array. But when you start declaring the square brackets inside the quotation, it now acts as a function. It's different from an array. And what I can do is that I can now call a function called parameters. So I'm calling the block above, telling that, what, if you want a name, go to that parameter section and look for a parameter called storage account name. This is the syntax declaration. I'm saying parameter, open, close, get something called as a storage account name right now. What will this do is, let's see. Let's say save. Now, did I pass my name anywhere? Did I pass? No, not at all. I did not pass the name at all. What this is going to do is this. When I deploy a template, again, when I say deploy a custom template out here, I'll say load your own template, load your file, storage template. I'll say okay. I'll say the resource group is ARM storage. So this was there, your subscription, your resource group. and the resource group location, scroll down, you now have one more thing getting reflected as a mandatory field, and here it is telling what this is the name of the storage account which needs to be created, which is from the template out here as such. So now as a client you can now say, okay fine, you know what, it's demo west us to storage abc 000, and again create this out. Okay, let's see. So now each and every time you have an option to pass a unique name. Whatever that you pass will now be created from the template out here as such. So now I'll say create a deployment, and whatever you pass during the runtime, now your template is not hard coded, which means your template is generic. You can give it to anyone. They can just take this template, deploy it, and while or before creation of your storage account, they can pass the name that they want, they desire to. So this way, you can give a freedom to someone who's using this template, telling that whatever name that you want, please go ahead, pass it out. I'm good with that. And now if you see, it's now telling, okay, fine, this is the demo storage west US that I just passed in. And it's now telling, okay, fine, I'm creating this out here as such. So parameters allow you or allow someone who's using the template to decide what name or what kind of a property they want out here. So let's wait. And now if you see, I now have a demo west US2 storage, and this name was passed just before the template got created. These are all the runtime values. So runtime values. These are runtime values out here because I did not hard code it anywhere. I did not tell anywhere, which means that if I give the same template to you, you can take the same template, put it in your account, and before you create something, you can pass your own name and then have something created, which is very generic in nature, which means that you can reuse this again and again. You don't have to create new templates for new storage accounts. You can reuse it 100 different times. You can create 100 different storage account each and every time out there as such. Yes, any more questions? Anyone, any questions here? Anyone, any questions that I can take till you? Okay, let's look at one more example. Now you have parameterized something so that the client can go ahead, simply declare some name out here and create it out. Now the client is coming back to you and telling that, you know what, I'm giving this template to a lot of people. I want you to create a template in such a way that yes, as a client, I want to go ahead and declare whatever name that I want, but I should only be able to create in a couple of locations, not everywhere. Let's say I want to create my storage account only in locations like East US2, Central US, and North Europe. These are the three locations that should be allowed to be created. Apart from this, I don't want you to create a storage account anywhere else. So what I can do, variables is a different thing. We'll talk about that. But in parameters, I can declare a new parameter. Put a comma, say enter. Again, open up the quotes. It's asking you, do you want to create a new parameter? I'll say yes. I'll say storage location. Let's put something like this. Storage location. Type is a string. And after this, I'll say enter. Open up the quotes here. I'll say allowed values. It's an array. So I said allowed value array after this comma. So I have a type called string. I'm telling an allowed value. Inside this, I can say East US2, Central US, finally North Europe. The different values that are allowed. Now I'll scroll down. Instead of passing location as West US2, exactly, I'll say it is parameters, open close parenthesis, storage location. I'll say save, go back again. Let's recreate a deployment again. I'll say use the same file. I'll say save. I'll use the same resource group. I'll scroll down. You had the storage account name right now, which means that client can go ahead and pass something. Storage account location cannot be passed. Rather, it gives you a drop down. Whatever you have chosen, it'll now give you a drop down. You can only select it from the drop down out here as such. Now this is now giving you a console. It's like a UI for the client, telling that okay, fine, only these are the allowed values. So now you can just go ahead, give something like demo storage NU North Europe 000 ABC, something like this. Let's see, template is not required. Okay, fine. Let's scroll down. Okay, fine. I don't know why, but let's read out the file. Fine. Some bug. And let's try to, let's say, see whether the validation gets passed. Validation is passed. Create this out as such. So now you can go ahead and say that okay, fine, it is a storage account that I'm creating in a specific location that we want out there, and then this will help you go ahead and create this out. So that's the use case of an allowed value out here, or something known as an allowed value. Again, you can also have something called as a default value. Let's say I give a default value here telling it is demo store abc000 us is to something, a default value out here. Let's save this out. Back again, here it is creating something called as a template. Let's go again. Let's say build your own template. Now I am giving something known as a default value, and I'm by default giving a value called something like demos or something like this. I'll just save. Now what is the difference between a default value and allowed value is this. Just scroll down. You already have a value here. You do not give it. You just put it something called as a default value. But as a client, I can come here, remove this out, give my own value. Default values can be overridden. Allowed values cannot be overridden. You can simply select an allowed value, but in a default value, you can simply go ahead, change this entire value, override it out. So why do we have a default value in place is that in case your client is forgetting to pass a storage account directly creating it out, your template will not fail. You'll just say, okay, fine, this storage account is already there. So I'll give you a storage account out there as such. But if you want to change something, meaning if you want to, let's say, change the name, create a new one, you can just go ahead into your portal, change the name, have a new one, select an existing location, then go ahead and recreate it, or then go ahead and create it out as such out there. Yes, any questions still here? Hmm. Yes, yes. In whatever you do in PowerShell, yes, you can do a re-execute, or you can do the same thing in an ARM template also. Easy, the more easier than this would be Terraforms. Terraforms is more easier, more faster than ARM out there. Terraform will be covering after Azure DevOps, like is a part of Azure DevOps. So after Azure DevOps, I'll cover Terraforms and then get Terraforms into picture. So we'll do that. No, Terraform will not take 1 month. It will take 1 week. Yes, yes, yes. We'll be a part of the DevOps course. Yes, yes. Anyone? Any questions still here? Okay. One assignment that I do have for you all is this. Let me remove the default value. And let me say deploy a custom template. So you're trying to deploy a template. I'll just save. I'll take this, and now it has a blank section out here wherein you can pass the storage account name, and here you have a storage account location wherein you can select this out. So the client is telling that what, my developers, I have a team of developers, a team of QAs, a team of HRs, a lot of people who are working on the Azure portal, and they would like to create resources. But it's very difficult for me to come here and pass a unique name each and every time, because the name of the storage account should be unique. And a lot of my developers, QAs and HRs, they don't really understand what is Azure portal. So they kind of get this error telling that the name already exists and all, and we are getting blocked. So I don't want this to happen. I just want here, instead of telling storage account name, it should give me a drop down telling whether you belong to dev, QA, or a HR resource, or let's say a HR team. depending upon the selection location. Exactly. But correct for, yes, you can put an allowed value here telling it is the team name, which is dev, QA and HR. Let's say I am from a development team. I select a team called dev. It should automatically create a storage account name starting with dev, something like store, my project name called irctc, something like this. It should automatically go ahead and create something new for me each and every time as the client requirement out here. I want you to try it out. Before I explaining this out, I want you to try this particular requirement. And while you're trying this requirement, this is what I want. Okay, I want, if you, or if let's say the user passes a value called dev, it should add something called store abcxyz000, something like this, something unique. You can take in place of this one, you can take anything. If it's QA, it should be QA plus the entire thing. It's, let's say HR plus something, the string, and it should bind them together, add them together, add two strings together, and give me a storage account name each and every time out there. So what I want you all to do is that see how do you add two different things or two different strings in an ARM template. Adding two strings in an ARM template. Adding two different strings in an ARM template out here. And again, if I complicate my terminology a little bit, addition is also called as concatenation. Concat or addition, it's called concatenation. And in ARM, you have a function called concat. Just look at the example. It's a template function. Just look at what is the example out here. Just scroll down, search for concat. Concat, yes. Here, it's a template function out here, which is telling concat multiple arguments. How does it give you the value? Just go through this, and we'll talk about what you can do with, let's say, concatenation, how you can play around with concatenation and all these things. And we'll also start with something known as a resource iteration tomorrow, meaning I want multiple, let's say, storage accounts. How do I create the same thing? I want multiple different storage accounts out there and everything. So we'll talk about those things as such as well, out there as such. Yes, any questions that I can take, guys, before I close? Anyone, any questions that I can take till you? All right, so please look at the assignment. Please, firstly, in today's session, please understand how to use parameters, how to use allowed values in a parameter, what will that do to your template, and also ask a crucial question on what do you mean by a concatenation function and how can I achieve this particular, let's say, scenario using something known as a concatenation function out here as such. All right, thanks guys and have a good day ahead. Thank you.